This week, it's our annual holiday extravaganza. I'd like to start by reading a rendition of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" in Security Weekly / Chat GPT style. "'Twas the night before Christmas in the hacker's abode. Not a keyboard was clacking, no exploits or code. The servers were humming, all snug in their racks, in hopes that Saint Hacker soon would relax. The hackers were all nestled, snug in their chairs, with visions of payloads in 0 days and layers. And Mama in her hoodie, and I in my cap, had just settled in for a long winter's hack. When out on the dark web there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the terminal to see what was the matter. Away to the VPN I flew like a flash, to decrypt the commotion and analyze the bash. Now DDoS, now ransomware, now keylogger and phisher, on spoofing, on brute force, on malware and cipher. To the top of the firewall, to the top of the wall. Now hack away all. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney Saint Hacker came with a bound. He was dressed in all black, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of gadgets he had flung on his back, and he looked back like a hacker just opening a pack. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and layering his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang into his sleigh, his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, and drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good hack night." The hackers returned to their terminals with glee to unwrap their gifts as happy as could be. With Flipper Zeros, Hack RF, and Proxmark 3 in hand, they explored new exploits and secured the land. As the sun rose on Christmas morning so bright, they gathered round microphones to share their insight. A cybersecurity podcast, a festive delight, wishing all hackers a secure and silent night. We're kicking off this evening with a discussion on supply chain security, and delving into the world of hardware hacking, the annual Holiday Hack Challenge with Ed Scotus. We'll tackle vulnerability management, vulnerability disclosure, and then in the security news, if we can't change the default passwords, we all lose. The Flipper Zero, no CVE for you. New tools that are not new at all. The BIOS logo attack vector. A $15 router has all the secrets. Turns out AI is stupid. And SLAM, Spectre-based linear address masking. All that and more on this special edition of Paul's Security Weekly. This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. Quick announcement, if you want links to all of my social media, you can visit my website, securitypodcaster.com. I make daily posts on Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Mostly funny tech memes even, and sometimes clips from the show and ridiculous things that happen in my life. So we've been joined remotely by Mr. Tyler Robinson. Tyler, welcome.
What's up, Paul? Sorry I couldn't be in the studio. Miss you guys so much.
I miss you too. Mr. Sam Bound is here with us as well remotely. Sam, welcome.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
And in studio, we have everyone we had before except for Bill Brenner, because we kicked him out. No, I'm just kidding. He had to go. We love Bill.
Yes, we do.
We have with us Mr. Ed Scotus, who has taught cyber incident response and advanced penetration testing techniques to more than 12,000 cybersecurity professionals. He is a SANS faculty fellow and the lead for SANS penetration testing curriculum. His courses distill the essence of real-world frontline case studies He accumulates because he is consistently one of the first experts brought in to provide after-attack analysis on major breaches where credit card and other sensitive financial data is lost. He's also a dear friend of mine and the show, and is likely responsible, at least one person who I would put some responsibility on for creating this craziness that we call Security Weekly, and a longtime mentor and friend. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate your kind introduction. It is so good to be on the show again. I've been on the show, 20 times now, and come here every holiday season. It's just really great to see you all and talk with you again.
Dude, I just had an idea. We need to do like they do on Saturday Night Live when you have multiple hosting of Saturday Night Live, where they give out jackets with the number of how many times you've been on the show.
Oh, yeah, we should do that.
We need pins.
If only we recorded every time Ed came on the show. Oh, wait, we did. So we can count.
Okay.
We can count.
Yep.
We could create some AI program to do that, maybe.
Or worse yet, you could show me over the years, when I had hair, or show you, Paul.
I did. I know. I had hair.
Most of the hosts had hair back then.
And stuff, right?
Yep.
Hey, I have hair. It's mostly in the back, but
That's right.
Hey, Ed, I got to tell you, your title, we have to adjust it, I think, slightly. I mean, you're president of SANS Technology Institute, director of Holiday Hack Challenge. You're like the god of Holiday Hack Challenge. Come on, come on.
He won't fit in the Santa hat. Stop.
But he built this thing from the ground up. So come on.
So SANS. So I am the president of the SANS College, which I'm loving doing that. That's a lot of fun. But SANS marketing has started to refer to me as the chief holiday officer.
Yeah.
So I'll take that.
I'll take that. That's even better than God in some respects. But yes, it's cool.
DHO.
Ed, what year are we going on in terms of numbers of holiday hack challenges?
So I skipped some. I started in 2002 and 2003. Then I think I skipped 2004, 2005. We're up to 2023 now. Anyway, if you count them all up, this is 20 years. This is our 20th.
Oh, my God. Wow. Yep. Congrats, man. That's amazing.
I appreciate that. And, I was talking to my team earlier today, and there were some major upticks in holiday hack over the years, just the evolution of it. One of the big changes was 2013 when Josh Wright started helping me. So I was already 10 years in. Josh Wright started helping me with other folks on my team. The whole team started to get involved. The other big uptick was 2015 when we added our first video game world, which was all browser quest based. The next big evolution or revolution in Holiday Hack was in 2018 when we moved to our new in-house game engine that Evan Booth built for us. And we've been evolving that one for the last 5+ years. And I think the next big revolution is this year, 2023, because we used AI in almost every aspect of the game.
Of course you did.
We did. The AI was used to help write the code. AI was used in almost all of the artwork. AI was used in voice generation. We have over 30 non-player characters that talk to you. All that was AI. And then we actually, most of the challenges are associated with AI. You're using AI to solve the challenge, or you're interacting with AI in some way. I'd say this game is about 80% AI because, I had this idea. It was October of last year, October of 2022. I said, I think AI is going to hit really big, really soon. So I want to theme all of Holiday Hack 2023 on AI. So we've been working on this thing for 14 months now. And then ChatGPT, of course, came out a month after October of last year, and we were already running with it. So anyway, I think you're going to love this year. It really is a revolution. If you've played before, wait till you see what we've done this year. We've upped everything because we force multiplied our capabilities with AI.
Was AI a vehicle for you to save time so you could devote more resources to game design and the other elements, or not so much? I'm curious.
That was a piece of it. We could do more with it with the same level of effort. So what we did is we put more effort into it. And I think that says something about AI. I personally believe if you want to be a technical cybersecurity person over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, you have to figure out how to leverage AI to do your job better, or else you're going to fall behind.
I agree.
It's going to be associated with every aspect of our work. So we wanted to lean into this. I'll tell you a fun story. It was about 6 weeks ago at a SANS event. I won't say which event, but a SANS instructor was teaching the event, and there was somebody brand new to cyber. They'd never done any sort of cyber before. They took a class at SANS, and they played Net Wars. Now, this person who did it they were really good with creating AI prompts. And they won NetWars. They came in first place. And they said they've never done any sort of technical cybersecurity work before, but they were able to lean into ChatGPT, and they won. Now, there was a scandal among the SANS instructors when this happened, saying, oh my gosh, we have to create AI-resistant challenges and build things in NetWars so that people can't solve it with AI. And I'm like, no, we're going to mandate that they use AI to solve things, right? We're going to lean into this and try to get as much out of it as possible, and to encourage people to cleverly use AI while practicing safe OPSEC, because I think that's really vital skills for going forward. And that's what Holiday Hack is all about. It's about having fun and building vital skills.
You know, that's interesting. I think it was last year, Ed, we were talking about the difference between cheating and hacking. And
Yes.
using AI as a tool it's not cheating. It's hacking. I'm using a tool at my disposal to accomplish a goal.
But it's intended functionality. It's not unintended functionality. Does that really count as hacking?
Right, exactly. So we had a discussion today, me and my team. By the way,
Look at Tyler. Look at Tyler. Tyler's sitting there like, damn, that's true. It's intended functionality. Is that actually hacking? He's conflicted.
Well,
He's conflicted. Look at it. Sorry, Tyler. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
So we have one of the challenges in the game this year. We call it the Reportinator. So the idea is Santa and the elves are using this technology called Chat NPT to really up their game. It's North Pole technology, Chat NPT. But Chat NPT has some issues. I mean, it's a LLM AI, and it hallucinates sometimes. So there's a front end that the elves created for Chat NPT called the Reportinator. And the Reportinator spits out a report. But some of the findings in the report are hallucinations. You have to go through the report and find the things that are actually true and identify the things where it's hallucinated, right? So some of our people who are not pen testers are going through the report saying, I don't know enough about pen testing to figure out which of this is true and which of it is a hallucination. Here's the secret. If you go to an AI, you could say, hey, I've got this pen test report. Can you tell me what's not true in it? And you know what? It nails it. It nails it. So, I mean, so you can have something that is generated by an AI that it has hallucinations in it, and then you could check it with the same AI or another AI, and it can often identify those hallucinations. We're trying to illustrate this point of there's tremendous usefulness in AI. Now, you got to be careful with OPSEC. You don't want to take your pen test report and load it up into, say, OpenAI's ChatGPT with customer names and things like that. OPSEC is vital. But we're trying to encourage people to think about different ways that they can use AIs as these things evolve over the next couple of years.
You know, Ed, it's interesting. I've actually been telling clients that you need a peer review or a review of the answers, any substantive decisions that an AI makes. You need a peer review. And they're like, what's a peer review? I'm like, well, you can do a human review, or you can just feed it to another AI or the same AI and tell it to figure out what's wrong about it. It's like, wait, you can ask the AI to check its own answers? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you totally can.
Now what happens when you start to taint that AI, though, and those LLMs or the model that you're feeding it was tainted, and that data that is being fed into there is also getting corrupted?
The AI breakdown over time. Yeah, I've been talking about that a lot this year. It'll be fascinating to see how it goes.
Ed, I wanted to ask you, did you build your own, or not, I shouldn't say build, build and train your own LLM for the game?
We did not. So here's the deal on that. So we used a lot of the publicly available AIs for building the game. ChatGPT, Bard, we used Bing AI, we used Midjourney, we used DALL-E. I mean, all the stuff was used. A lot of the code assistant stuff we used. And we encourage players to use it. In fact, we give them links where they can register for an AI. But one thing that I insisted on this year, because we're concerned about it and we're not quite ready yet, but I never wanted the player directly to interact with an AI through us, because there's all kinds of things such as jailbreaking and then risk of, something, the AI saying something inappropriate or doing something bad. So instead we say, hey, here's your scenario, go use an AI to solve that scenario and then come back to us with the answer.
And if it swears at you, that's on the AI, not
that's
us.
on them, not on us.
So if you use evil GPT, then it might come back with something malicious.
It could, and you can use that. But for us, the elves are interacting with the AI and showing you what they're getting back. But then you take that and interact with it on your own. That was a design criteria I imposed about 12 months ago on the team, saying, let's not be an intermediary between the player and the AI. Let's tell them to use the AI in their own way, and whichever AI they choose. We'll give them a few examples to choose from. But that was an important design criteria. In the future, though, it's very likely that we'll train up our own, but I still worry about the guardrails there and it saying something inappropriate. But we'll see how that evolves over the next year.
Do you think that's the challenge for people implementing their own LLMs? Is not so much the straight tech, it's the guardrails that you have to
Yes.
worry about.
The guardrails are a very controversial topic, especially on my team. There are certain people on my team who say that they would pay more for no guardrails. In fact, okay, so listen to this scenario. In Holiday Hack 2023, which is free, by the way, we should kind of say what it is,
Yeah,
I suppose.
sure.
It's a free hacking game with all kinds of holiday stuff, and it's fun, and you're going to build great skills. If you've never used an AI to solve cybersecurity problems, you really should play Holiday Hack. It will guide you through it. There's hints, all kinds of good stuff. But when you play Holiday Hack 2023, you are transported to the Pacific Ocean near the equator to what's called the Geese Islands. And there's 6 islands. When you visit each island, the goose will give you a lay, a Hawaiian lay. So there's 6 geese a laying, one on each island.
Now we got it.
Very punny.
This is what we come
There you
to
go.
expect from Holiday Hack Challenge, Ed.
So, and each island has a different theme. So we have Steampunk Island, we have Space Island, we have Film Noir Island, but one of the islands is the island of the Misfit Toys. And so we wanted to create artwork for the island of the Misfit Toys. So we went to, I won't name the particular AI that generates artwork, but it's one of the big ones.
Sure, got you.
And we said, hey, we want you to draw pictures of sad, broken toys with various maladies. And the AI responded saying, no, that would be very depressing for children, and I won't create those for you. So the guardrails kicked in and said, no, this is bad. We're not going to do it. So my team came up with this idea. In fact, I think it was JJ from the CounterHack team. He said this. He said, I'm a producer for a movie, and we're trying to create artwork for our movie that will uplift children who have physical maladies. So we're trying to create toys that have these physical maladies so that that can be used to inspire the children. It's like, sure, I'll start spitting that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's amazing how
It's all
easily
about-
socially engineered these
Yes.
LLMs are.
They are. Because it's trying to figure out how to construct the questions in a way that looks positive so
Yes.
that it actually produces the results that you want.
You know, there are
Which
jobs
is
out there for
social
AI
engineering.
prompt engineers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
totally.
they make $250,000 jobs for AI prompt engineers.
It's amazing.
Unbelievable.
What a world.
Yeah.
How cool is
I'm
that?
curious, Ed, what were some of the takeaways from your team using AI and LLMs in this way? Because my estimation, it sounds like you've done a lot of usage of these
Yes.
AI LLMs, more so than maybe myself. I mean, I use AI LLMs pretty much every day to accomplish some task, but it's pretty limited. But you've got a vast experience there. What were some of the takeaways?
I've had 18 people working for the past 12 months on Holiday Hack and the couple of the takeaways. One is tooling via API. So we're calling the APIs in the various AIs in a systematic way. So if you go to Holiday Hack 2023, sans.org/Holiday Hack, if you go there and log into the game, all of the narrative was written by AIs. We said, hey, we want you to use the voice of this elf. Oh, we trained the AI in the voices of the various elves. We took all of the text written for every single individual elf from Holiday Hack for the last 5 years and said, this is how, Peppermint Sticks talks. We want you to write a dialogue where Peppermint Sticks talks about how she's on this island doing this thing, and then the AI wrote the dialogue. We then took that dialogue and fed it into a voice generation system, AI system, where it was trained up on all these different voices. We have over 30 different voices, including the voices of people like Jason Blanchard. We've got my voice. Most of the people on my team, several of the children of people on my team play different elves and things like that. So we take the output, usually generated by ChatGPT, of that dialogue for that elf, feed it into the voice generation, and now we have that voice saying, so that when you click on that NPC, not only do you see the text on the screen, but you can hear the voice of that NPC talking, sounding just like me or just like Jason Blanchard or whomever. So this tooling, also the tooling to say, hey, there's an island that has the theme of steampunk, and we want you to build artwork that looks like this. And the tooling not only creates it all and automates the creation of it all, but places it into our game engine in the appropriate place. So the takeaways are AI automation through APIs to act as a force multiplier for your team to get more work done in less time. That's the big lesson. Evan Booth from my team, who's done a lot of this tooling, he's working on a presentation that we're probably going to deliver in the spring on that very topic.
That's awesome.
So I've been saying, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Ed, you just validated 2 points for me that I think are really important for people to understand. AI on LLMs are good at two really good outputs, content and imagery, right?
Yep.
And people have been trying to figure out how you can expand AI beyond those two, but those two are really good use cases. How can I use it to generate content? Check. You did that, right?
Yep.
Scripts,
Yep.
throw it through voice enablement, and then imagery, right? And in images and creating images, those are really two good use cases. I'm curious, like, beyond that, were there any other areas of AI that you can see implementing into the platform later? Because I think this is the big question around AI and its usefulness in the industry beyond content production and imagery. What else can I use AI for? And I don't know if you explored it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
We have. So a couple of things to add to your list, I think. Code generation, unless you consider code a form of content.
It's
but code
content
generation,
to me, but yeah.
fair enough. Code versus content, it's a long-standing debate in cybersecurity, of course. Another thing is analysis of data sets. Look at this data set and show me the outliers. What here doesn't apply? What looks like it's wrong? That kind of thing. But it's not good at yet. It's coming, I think, with time. So one of the things I want to do, we always have a coin for people who help us build Holiday Hack. Here's the 2022 coin, last year's coin, and there's always a cipher on the back, but I'm not going to show it to you. There's a cipher on the back. I went to check. I spent 2 entire days trying to coax the various AIs that are available today to create a cipher for me. I said, I want you to create an innovative cipher, something that a human can solve in the space of 10 minutes to an hour, but something that is novel. It's a brand new cipher that no one's ever seen. And all they could do was simple substitution ciphers. No matter, I spent over a day, almost 2 days, trying to convince it, almost doing all of the work for it to create a cipher. And it just wouldn't create a novel cipher. Now, I know there are some specific...
No offense, that's because you called it a cipher. That's what a cipher is.
I tried every possible
No, you
word,
didn't.
everything I could think of.
No, you didn't.
Well, every word I could think of in the space of 2 days.
Okay.
Did you try 2?
Did I what?
Did you try Claude 2? Because it might
did
be
not.
the best task. Yeah, it's more likely to get coding and such. I mean, mathematical stuff is usually what LLMs are terrible at.
Yeah. So there are, I've read papers about this. There are neural network AIs, if you want to call it that, with adversarial feedback loops where you have Alice trying to send something to Bob and you've got Eve in the middle trying to see what the message is. And they devise a mechanism for, I don't want to say encoding the information, I don't want to say encrypting the information, but altering the information so that Alice and Bob know what it is and Eve can't figure it out. But the actual encoding of it doesn't really have a key. It's just a weighting in Alice and Bob's neural network that is determined dynamically. It's fascinating stuff. But obviously it's not practical for us to use right now. It's some laboratory stuff that people did about 3-4 years ago. And it's a very bespoke, very special purpose set of neural networks that implement that. But I mean, it's
not
common.
solvable in an hour.
Not solvable in an hour by a human.
Right.
It's got to be solvable in an hour by a human. So anyway, we're working with this stuff now. By the way, it's not just AI in Holiday Hack. I mean, we have web application penetration testing. We have hardening of the cloud. We have threat hunting in Azure. We've got all kinds of other challenges there, but they're all enabled by and helped by AI. And to win the game this year, you have to show us how you used AI to solve the challenges by giving us a sampling of the prompts that you used. And I'm hoping people will come up with clever uses of various AIs to solve our challenges that we never thought of.
Yeah, because it's all about the prompts, which is interesting, Ed, because if you do a basic prompt and tell it to describe some content, I find you get it comes back in the same voice, at least with ChatGPT, it comes back in the same voice. And I've noticed it tends to speak very grandiose in a very similar language, unless you prompt it to change that language. And that's what I'm currently refining my usage of it, because I'm like, go describe this content. And I'm like, but like, describe it better. Describe it different. Like, it describes it the same way. I'm sure you ran into this too.
You're telling me it speaks like Matt all the time?
Yeah, like me.
Let me give you a little tip that I learned from Evan Booth about 8 months ago.
Just a tip.
So what you could do is you could say to say Chat GPT, you could say, call this SCOTUS style, then put a double quote, and you could paste up to 24,000 and change words that you've written. I took a blog post that was about 3,000 words long, and I said, call this SCOTUS style, quote, and then I pasted the blog post, unquote. Hit enter. Then you can say, describe SCOTUS style, and it will describe amazingly well for you your own writing style. Then you can say, rewrite the following, and you can give it up to 24,000 plus words in SCOTUS style. And it will rewrite what you've given it in that style, and it is shockingly good. So you can train it to, and that's what we did for all the elves. We said, call this peppermint stick style, and then I want you to write some dialogue for me about peppermint sticks talking about this thing in her style. And boom, nailed it.
That's really cool.
And one of the things that, when I've done some of these similar types of things with similar prompts, that the output's not perfect. It still requires some human interaction to fine tailor it. And I think that was kind of funny from some of the output that I heard from some of the audio from the elves. That I know there was one SANS instructor that submitted some audio, and this SANS instructor has a very recognizable accent, or brogue, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
And the elf, the NPC, as it were, turns out to actually be from the Midwest.
Yes.
Based on that
accent. It is interesting. Yeah. So
I won't give it up as to who it was, just because. If you want to do that, you can do that.
I won't. It does squash accents to some extent, which we don't like. We want the accents in there. It's very good with British accents. It's very good with keeping a Midwestern accent. But if you start deviating from that, it kind of removes them or scrubs them down, or certainly lowers their amplification. The other one is Jeff McJunkin. I assume you're not referring to Jeff McJunkin,
Nope.
Larry?
Nope.
All right, so if you go into the Net Wars room in Holiday Hack 2023, of course we have Jeff McJunkin running the Net Wars room. And if you click on him, it sounds like Jeff McJunkin, and we trained it up on language from Jeff, but he sounds sedated. It is a heavily slowed down, very chill Jeff McJunkin.
I mean, he lives he does live in Oregon, so you can't fault him for that.
So Midwestern style.
Jeff is so peppy.
How do you get the AI to smoke weed?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Well, it's hallucination.
You could
right?
train it. You could train it for that. Or hallucination is a great pun.
See, so that means AI cannot replicate the Rhode Island accent very well then.
It'd have to be trained on that, right?
It would have to be trained.
Yep.
And even though we have found when we train it on somebody with the accent, at least the publicly available ones right now, they do lower the accent, which is frustrating because we want the accent. We want full accent. We've got some Australian accents in there, a lot of British accents. We have a German accent. Is that who you're talking about, Larry?
Yes. Yes.
Dr. J. Yes.
So the other one, Ed, that I will find, and a completely silly question, is that I wonder if any of the Holiday Hack Challenge staff took any of that audio and had the elves do advertisements for Balenciaga.
I don't know. I do know that the team has been altering using my voice. My voice was the first one I think they cloned over a year ago. And, they'll play things of me giving them raises and me saying all kinds of stuff that I never said. My wife, when she listens to the voice of Santa Claus in the game, she says she can tell the difference between me and it. I can't. And most of my friends say it sounds just like you. So it is what it is. I come from the Midwest, so I have that kind of Midwestern thing going. But it's fun. And by the way, if you want to win this game, you ultimately are going to have to clone a voice in the game itself and use that to fool a voice recognition system.
Sam's. Got to do Sam's voice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Is this difference between Chat GPT 3 and 4?
3, 5, and 4.
3.5 is the free one.
Is the current free one.
Right.
Yeah, we wanted to make it so that everybody could use the free stuff available. You do not have to pay for it. The whole thing was written expecting you to use the free stuff.
Okay.
Yes, the commercial stuff, is more powerful. It may or may not work because we wrote it for the free stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's an important piece, right? When we were doing some prototyping in my previous company, we were looking at 3.5 versus 4, and when you move from one to the other, you get different results, Ed.
You sure do.
And it's, yes, you can do more with 4, but then the fidelity from 3.5 to 4 changes as well, and so that's an interesting thing that you just have to think about.
Matt, like you can use the same one at 24 hours apart and get different answers.
Yeah,
Totally.
Because as the training
Absolutely.
data moves and changes, you can get totally different answers. You can actually, there was a study done very recently, which was 2, 6, 12, 24, 48, 72 hours and so on and so forth. And like the difference in the answers was unbelievable how big it got as the hours went on.
Oh yeah, it is amazing. I find different. It's loaded at different levels, different times of the day, so you get more GPU horsepower devoted to you earlier in the day than once California wakes up and such. So you get all kinds of different results. Not only the timeliness of responses back from it, but also how the quality varies over time. It's really a fascinating area, and if you want to play with it, Holiday Hack is the place to go.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
One of my coworkers, Dave Maynor, told me, he's like, I play Holiday Hack Challenge every year. I was like,
He's great.
I didn't know. I'm like, okay. So you've got a vast audience, Ed.
Well, last year we hit 19,000 people, and my goal is to hit 20,000 or maybe even more.
Mm-hmm.
So, please encourage, your audience to play.
Mm-hmm.
For people in the audience, please encourage your friends to play. I guarantee that they're going to get a laugh. They're going to find it fun. Just give us 15 minutes or a half hour. That's all, right? But if you do that, you might fall in love with it and play it even longer and have more fun and learn more stuff with it. We want it to feel really friendly, really inclusive. I mean, I say this and it might sound a little creepy. I want you to feel like you got a hug from Sans when you play this thing.
Yes.
So
Ed,
Can we get a hug from Ed when we?
But Ed,
I will give you a hug next time I see you. I promise.
Ed, to that point, you can be a very senior security researcher like my friend Dave, or you could just be someone getting into the field,
or
have a great experience. Is how you design the challenge, which I think is one of the astounding accomplishments you and your team have made. Right?
Yep.
Is it diverse backgrounds can come into play this game and have a good time.
So last year, my 9-year-old and I played.
Wonderful.
She mostly did it, and I offered some advice given based on some of my experience. And about a week ago, she says, Dad, when's Holiday Hack Challenge come out? Can we do that again this year? Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes.
We love that. And, we want to get, new people to cyber in this. We wrote a lot more introductory and sort of newbie-oriented challenges this year. By the way, there's 2 forms of lock picking in the game where you get a little, we call it a faster lock. But the principles of picking the faster lock, using your mouse and such, right, are the same as the principles of picking a master lock. We also have little luggage locks that you'll have to pick in-game. They're little virtual luggage locks. So there's a lot of challenges that we try to map to physical things, as well as, introductory cyber security challenges. Yeah, and then there's also stuff for like the very, very accomplished senior people, but those are later in the game. Oh, and another aspect, I haven't mentioned it, we've talked about AI here so much, another big aspect of the game is space. As you work your way through
The
this,
final
you start
frontier.
interacting. Yes. Mm-hmm. You start interacting with space mission software, with some of the vulnerabilities in space mission software. You start discovering things that are in the sky above the Holiday Hack world. And I'm not going to give anything away there, but you will be hacking space mission software when you get about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through Holiday Hack.
I would applaud you if you would grab the Apollo 11 code that's out open source from NASA and use some of that for next year's Holiday Hack Challenge.
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
It is probably the most well-documented code I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it's amazing.
All written in machine language, too.
Fortran.
Oh, Fortran? Really?
I think so, yeah.
That was very early Fortran, because that was 69, so it's probably written in 68, 67. But amazing. Yeah. We're using current stuff, which is mostly Java, to be honest with you.
That's fine. I was just like, it's exciting. Like, it's so cool. The archive software is just so neat.
So, I mean, next year you have 7 swans a swimming if you keep your theme going. But I don't know how swans swim in space, so I'm not sure how you tie that all together quite yet. But I'll leave it up to you because you're the...
Every year I start working on the storyline in October for the following year. So I'm actually 2 months into the storyline for Holiday Hack 2024 and working on the technology background of it. So that's already in the making. We're kind of figuring out what technologies we're going to be putting into Holiday Hack 2024. I kind of know the basic of the storyline. In fact, this year, the end of Holiday Hack 2023 is setting up the story for the start of Holiday Hack 2020.
The best part of all of that means that you're not retiring at 20 years.
That's right.
Because we asked you that last year. Like, next year's 20 years. Are you going to retire after that? Clearly not.
No, he's got to get at least 30 and out. Like, he's got 10 more years.
What would I do with myself? I don't see myself retiring. I love doing this. I love talking with you guys every year. I love interacting with people who play Holiday Hack. I've been doing a lot of travel this year and a lot of presentations. I think I've done, 15 presentations. I mean, throughout the year, and it's been wonderful. I've been, I went to Hackers Teaching Hackers back in November. I did B-Sides Augusta back in October. I did an IONS event in New York City back in September. So I've been getting around, and I'm loving that, and I want to keep that going through the year. It's just so fun.
To tie these two themes together, because we're going to talk about hardware hacking too, how do you use AI when you're doing some hardware hacking stuff? I think it helps in certain areas, but certainly not others in my experience.
I mean, you could use it as a brainstorming buddy. I find if I get stuck, whatever it is, if it's a creative endeavor or even if it's a technical endeavor, just give me different ideas. I've tried this and this and this. This doesn't work. What do you think? Now, it might be hallucination and it might give you just nonsense, right? But if it's the middle of the night and it's too late to call Larry, and say, I'm stuck, what should I do?
Yep.
Yep, exactly. So you can brainstorm with the AI. I find that best. I mean, look, it knows the pinouts of Raspberry Pis and stuff like that, but you can look that up fairly easily itself. But if something's not working, just kind of brainstorming, going back to first principles, that's how I've used it for hardware hacking. But I think that's going to change a lot more in the coming year as well.
I find that interesting about hardware hacking, though, because you do get stuck. And sometimes in very early stages, because it's just something stupid, like you're interfacing with the hardware, and you got to go back to basics and troubleshooting, and just go, wait, does it have enough power? Does it have permissions to access this device? Am I getting the right pins? Are the pins right? Did you do the right things? Am I at the right baud rate?
Is my firmware up to date? Is it even reasonable firmware?
Don't start with firmware, Jesus.
Fuck. Oh, you can't update the firmware. It doesn't have enough power.
Two firmware guys in here. No.
You can't update the firmware if it doesn't have enough power. Come on.
Right?
Layer one.
Ed, having built your own engine, your own gaming platform, having started to dive into the AI and having everybody embrace that as a training mechanism, how far off do you think we are from actually utilizing, say, something like augmented reality, where we are dissecting hardware virtually and having the ability to interact with multiplayer, multi-training events and include that into a gamification that is actually useful, leveraging something like AI?
I don't know. I talk to a lot of people about that. I mean, there's the whole Vision OS from Apple. There's all the stuff that Meta's doing. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned. I don't see that jump yet. So for me, that means it's more than a year off. Because I'm focused on, hey, what's going to be in Holiday Hack 2024 and how can it be awesome? And again, maybe this is me being old-fashioned, but that whole augmented reality stuff I think is kind of fun, but it's really quite a toy right now. Tell me what I'm wrong, but that's kind of my view of it.
What about Bluetooth Low Energy or LoRa, or bring some physical aspects to the Holiday Hack Challenge?
They did that last year.
Yeah, we've done that in the past. We did a Wi-Fi challenge. We've done near-field communication in the past. Yep. So we try to, certainly emulate those protocols, but also their effects over certain distances. Like you can hack Wi-Fi further than you can hack, say, BLE or NFC. We've done that in the past. I'm sorry to say there's no wireless in it this year. But coming into next year, there's going to be a fair amount of wireless because our storyline requires it. Wait till you see next year. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of that. Larry, I've got you on speed dial.
Please do. But love to help. Love to get one of those coins for next year.
Oh, yeah. Good idea. Thank you.
There's so many different wireless protocols and different tools. I feel like more so than ever before to analyze this stuff. Like, where do you recommend, people start with that, Ed, today?
I would ask Larry. I mean, where I cut my teeth on it was Josh Wright's Hacking Wireless Exposed book, which is, I mean, it's great. It's a great foundational book, but it was, 7-8 years ago, I think, that he released it. So what is the modern equivalent of that, Larry?
Oh, that's Sans 6617 is.
I didn't want to say that. I was thinking it, but yeah.
And the fun part about that, Ed, is that I feel comfortable in saying that, Josh wrote The Hacking Wireless Exposed, and it was very parallel to 617, and then they updated the class, and the book got updated, and then Josh let his baby go to some very amazing caretakers, if I do say so myself. And the class has evolved, but there's been no update to said book. So arguably,
exactly. That's why I say,
yeah.
I mean, that book is still a fine foundation, but there's so many, the proliferation that Paul talks about of wireless protocols and all the different variations in Zigbee with this mode and that mode.
Yep, and LoRa and Thread and
the analysis tools as well. I mean, we talk about flipper zeros, right?
Yes.
As being a part of your tool set now, in addition to your hack RF, to your Archstick ones, that it just the tool sets just keep to all these dongles that Larry's like, you need to buy this one. Like, all right, $21.99, add to cart.
Yep.
You get that one.
And I think that's what, and I think we were talking about this a little bit last week too, Paul, that like the protocols are still there, they're still evolving, but the tool set has, and because of, there are so many folks that want to develop for these protocols, that the development kits have become so much more accessible, easy to use, readily available, inexpensive, and now they can be turned into attack and analysis platforms on the easy. Like,
we had talked about putting a virtual Flipper Zero into Holiday Hack 2023. And don't hate me for this, but it was maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I said, not this year. We've got so much going on with all this AI stuff. Let's focus there, maybe next time around. And I'm not making a commitment to that right now, but we're going to need a very robust virtual wireless tool set for Holiday Hack 2024 to do what the storyline needs us to do.
Tyler. Ooh. What do they do?
But the flipper also has some limitations as well. But I like it as a mechanism to get people into hardware and RF hacking, basically.
It's almost magical, right? You fire the thing up and it's like, look what this thing is doing. I can't believe it. Now, how is it actually doing that? And then you learn the protocols. And right?
Like I said, but exactly, it's a stepping stone into that, right? Because you get into it and then you do some stuff and you're like, oh, I'm really into this kind of stuff. And then you're like, well, how do I do that? And I'm like, oh, it doesn't transmit necessarily on those frequencies the way I need it to, so I need to get something else.
And
I need to go get a hack RF, and I need to learn this software, and it starts this spiraling effect, which I think is amazing for our field, and is a catalyst to get people into our field, although it gets a bad rap by media and press, which I think is unfortunate.
And I think that's exactly the point where you and I are, Paul, like based on some of the stuff you were working on and the stuff I was supposed to work on today during our little sort of hack session, but we socialized instead, was that we learned that the Raspberry Pi can interact with a bunch of devices in specific fashions with Bluetooth low energy beacons or advertisements. I'm like, that's cool that you can do it with a click with a button.
Oh, you said Raspberry Pi, you meant Flipper.
I mean, Flipper Zero, But you can do that, click with a couple buttons and things happen. Like, that's cool, but what actually make that happen, and what else can you take that further because you understand the underlying protocol and you understand some tools to interact with that. And like, that's, I think, what my intent was for some of the stuff with that, is to take that really inexpensive, that $12 piece of hardware, to implement those beacons that made that thing do that, so I can make it do more, and I can not only hack that, or I can interact with that one device, but I can also interact with your Christmas tree, and I can interact with your
adult toys,
your Dexcom G7, and your insulin pump, and so forth and so on. So it's taking that and being inspired by that to build the tool set with readily available tools to take it above and beyond.
Really cool.
Just don't buy it on AliExpress because you don't know if it's legit.
Oh no, totally buy it on AliExpress.
I sign up for all the free hardware in my junk email.
Yeah.
Are we seeing a trend though where more things are, because of the Flipper Zero, perhaps implementing the rolling code technology to make it more difficult? So it's not just like, because I've kind of we've looked at like the 433 megahertz band, and like it's pretty open. Like there's usually not a rolling code in a lot of devices that are implementing that. When they get in the 2.4 spectrum, like I found with my Christmas trees plural, because my wife is addicted to Christmas trees and she likes to buy a lot of Christmas trees. And then
Your
the
wife-
remotes have FCC IDs on them, and Hacker and me is like, this needs to be investigated.
Your wife and my wife need to talk, because I tried to go for multiple Christmas trees this year and I was shot down.
I only got one. I have one 9-footer right in the middle of the kitchen, and anyways.
But is that rolling code technology trying to be more resistant to shenanigans like we've seen?
Mm-hmm. And like we were talking about your Christmas tree remote, it might not be rolling code at all. It may be some other higher layer application.
But a high enough
stuff.
a bar where like one of my coworkers was like, I described to him the situation, and he was like, you could do that. He's like, that's a lot of work for a Christmas tree, though. Like, usually when you have a target like that, it's for something like, I don't know,
your
like
ring.
a smart meter, or something that has a lot at stake for it.
Well, I mean,
but now we're finding this, I think, kind of protections for whatever that is. Is it because they want to be in the store and just control that Christmas tree or whatever? But these protections exist. But is that protection like more readily available
to
now?
Jeff's point, what's the risk?
Right.
Or what's the threat?
No. What's the compliance
I think a lot of that's just built into libraries, right? Or default SDKs that many manufacturers are now leveraging. So they've finally updated some of the de facto things that are getting included with.
Like, am I really gonna hack your Christmas tree remote to get access to your internal NAS so I can download all of your sensitive files? Or am I gonna just hack the Christmas tree remote so I can drive by Ed's house and make his Christmas trees freak out?
Right.
Well, I mean, clearly for
that's
me,
my,
the answer is
my
number
goal.
2.
My goal is shenanigans, right? We talked about shenanigans on the show. Like, I want to hack this stuff largely for shenanigans, largely so I can go to. I'm at a Christmas party at like one of my friends' houses, and I just want to make his Christmas tree freak out. And everyone's like, why is the Christmas tree freaking out, right? And I'm just like, oh, that's shenanigans.
But you know what? Shenanigans turn into
parlor trick.
hacker parlor tricks, and shenanigans turn into something a heck of a lot better.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, you've got Flipper Zero and other inexpensive tools that can implement that hack. So then the vendors step it up to stop simple shenanigans, and then the tooling gets better. And, imagine if you could take Burp Suite of today and attack the websites of 10 years ago. They would just fall apart, right? So the defenses get better, the attacks get better, defenses get better, and this is perpetual. And it keeps our industry going, actually.
You mean it's an arms race? My God, who would have ever thought that?
Totally.
You mean you think we all have jobs for a while?
Oh my God.
Oh, who would have thunk that?
This is awesome.
But, so it's not
Turns
just,
out we're smart.
Shenanigans. It's not shenanigans. It's going to shut this, and the tooling will, be blocked. They'll get better. We'll get better. Back and forth.
And I love to see the innovations on both sides, but specifically the tooling as well. Recently, I started learning the Universal Radio Hacker, URH software. Larry's like, you gotta check this out. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, it takes it from that step of, oh yeah, like I have a flipper and I can push a button and affect change in the real world, to I can figure out how to make a lot of different things. Like I can start doing this on my own now,
I saw the waveform, and I saw the protocol, and I saw the ones and zeros. And if I change this 1 to a 0, it does this other thing, and I can retransmit. Yeah, amazing.
But I think we need to encourage this particular research, but also we need to be mindful of some of the TikTok and social media kind of videos that I'm seeing of people running around with a flipper, like turning random things off, and affecting change in the real world for no other reason, just to make other people's lives miserable. So I want to make sure we talk about this on the show.
Yep.
Well, so I saw a video recently where someone went into Lowe's and was making the customer assistance needed go off in the entire store. And I'm like, look, dude, you're great. Like, you can get a Flipper Zero, you can find the GitHub that I found, and you can put all that stuff on your Flipper because it's just unauthenticated, open in the clear, RF communications that trigger the customer assistance. I'm like, yeah, I discovered that whenever I got my Flipper, that was like 8 months ago. And I went to a Lowe's, I was in the electrical department, and I'm like, well, you know what? Like, rather than pushing the button, I was with my son, my oldest son. I'm like, hold on, Brad. I'm like, rather than pushing the button, I'm like, let me just see if this works. And I pushed the thing, and it said customer assistance needed in electrical. I'm like, that is so cool, right? Now, legit, we did need assistance, and I didn't want to like make a bad day for the employees at the store because I had a list of every single department on my Flipper. I'm like, wow, I could create a playlist on here, and I could just keep looping through, making this happen in the whole store. But I'm like, the only thing that would do is make the poor people that are working at the Lowe's store have a bad day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just did it because I'm like, that was a pretty cool hacker thing. And I tested my hacker thing with my device, and my son was like, but that's really cool. He's like, you're going to teach me how to do more of that stuff, right?
Yeah, but think about that scenario, taking it to a malicious potential. Right. Art talked about this. Oh, God, I can't remember which RSA conference
how do you use this on a pen
was.
test? Maybe I'm pen testing a Lowe's thing, and I want to create chaos in the store so I can do my physical pen test. Right? So that could be also.
But I'm also thinking about that crossover between, an attack that becomes kind of physical, right? Where do you draw that line, right? Art talked about this. I think it was RSA 2016, where we could cross over and create destructive attacks.
Right.
Does this capability now potentially create an opportunity for attackers to use this to create something more destructive than constructive, right? And it creates this very blurred line that we have to think about.
Yep.
The line between stunt hacking and malicious hacking?
Yeah.
And
destructive hacking.
It's the whole OST argument, whether that's physical or via software, right?
That's it. That's exactly it, Tyler.
Either you're improving the world and demonstrating impact that is otherwise not widely known and or experimented with or researched, or attackers are going to use it and they're going to come up with their own methods that may not be widely known but are therefore more effective because no one's looking at it.
Yeah, so it's similar type of thing, like by doing something like that at Lowe's and doing that for everything, there may be unintended consequences.
Correct.
Which then starts us into our one of our other panels about vulnerability disclosure and so forth. As we were talking in Slack and so forth, we were talking on one of our internal calls that I got word there was someone in a furry convention using the Flipper Zero to do like BLE spamming. And not only did it, mess with all of the iPhones, but it also took the Square payment terminals offline and actually impacted the connection between continuous glucose monitoring and insulin delivery.
And on social media, someone also said that it impacts their hearing aids as well.
Right, because they're Bluetooth enabled.
So if you don't, people get the Flipper and they're like, oh, I can do the BLE spamming, and
I'm going to just annoy the shit out of iPhone
annoy
users.
the stuff out of people, and it goes over Bluetooth Low Energy, and it sends out a flood over Bluetooth Low Energy to knock off iPhones, Android devices, Windows computers.
Now
if you read online, that's what it says it will do. So you're an attacker, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go do that. But what people are reporting is what Larry is saying, and people have reported to me too, that it has these other unintended consequences that you may not know. Now, when Larry and I look at that, we're like, oh, of course it does, and we need to be careful when we conduct these attacks. But there's other people out there that are like, oh, I don't care. I don't care about being careful. I'm just going to knock off whatever, and that's not cool. Or is it the fault of the manufacturers?
Well, save it for the vulnerability disclosure.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. This is the kind of debate that we've been having internally, is the moral and ethical. We want people to do more hardware hacking because it's important.
Radio
right?
hacking, RF hacking.
RF hacking, right? And all that stuff. But we also have to have some guidelines, guardrails around this. There's a moral. Ed, you've talked about this for years, because you've taught ethical hacking to people at SANS more than 20 years ago, probably, is when you started teaching, right? And so you're very in tune with this issue.
I've been working on a book for the last 2 years now on cybersecurity ethics. It should be coming out late first quarter, but it has a whole bunch of different ethical dilemmas and tries to come up with a framework for ethical decision making. But that's a discussion for another day. But it does deal with situations like this, especially hardware that could impact people's medical devices, health devices, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It is an area fraught with ethical concern, and we need to kind of share wisdom with each other, and especially the new and up and coming generation, about being careful and trying to do hacking for noble purposes and to uplift people, and not to be a jerk or to hurt things.
Yeah.
I wonder this problem's getting worse because the technology has made it so more accessible to conduct these attacks. So now let's talk about infrared hacking, right? Which is not obviously radio communications; it's light. But
that is radio. That is RF radio frequency over infrared.
So there is a radio frequency component. It is not just light. It is.
It's light. It's just light you can't see. And you know what 2.4 gigahertz wireless is?
It's light you can't see.
It's light you can't see.
Light, sound, and RF communications all have this interesting physics relationship.
Yep.
Right.
So I argue that, or one of the things that I teach when we do 617, when we do the software-defined radio stuff, is that effectively when we're taking an SDR and we're tuning into 433 megahertz, and we're pulling that data in via GQRX and we're visualizing it, we're downshifting 433 megahertz into the visual spectrum.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just changing that spectrum downward to something that I can visualize because it's out there. It's the same thing.
Right.
We just can't see it.
Yeah, you're hacking the radio frequency to actually grab the communications to visualize it as text.
We're down.
Right?
We're
You can
downsampling
visualize it, but you can also turn it into a WAV file too.
Yep.
And make
So
it auditory.
We're downsampling effectively. So if we take Wi-Fi and we see the waveform, we're downsampling that to something that we can visualize because it happens to be in the visible spectrum of light, which is still RF energy.
Right. And this is where the gray line comes in, because as we enable this technology for more and more good, it can also be used for bad.
Right. But the infrared is interesting. So I remember back in the day, TVB Gone. Remember the TVB Gone kids that came from
Mitch Altman. Yep.
So my oldest son's into welding, and so I want to teach him soldering. And I'm like, I'm not the greatest at soldering, but I'm like, whatever I know, I'm going to pass on to you, and we'll learn the rest together. Turns out he's like probably better at soldering than I am because he's really good at welding, right? And so I'm like, well, let's build this TVB Gone device. He's like, well, what does it do? I'm like, well, you know how I can use my flipper and I turn off TVs and stuff like that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, this was the original device that we had to do this. And I'm like, you got these kits and we had to solder them together. So we went through compared to the flipper, it's a painstaking task, right? You got to follow the instructions and we soldered everything together. We brought it to the TV and we turned it off. And it was so much more rewarding, right? To be able to build something together that had this effect rather than just taking a flipper and just, turning stuff off. I'm like, but before the flipper, this is what we had to do.
And I think that gets to the big point, Paul, that you were bringing up earlier, and that is with the tooling being so much easier to use, somebody who knows nothing and hasn't really even thought much about it, push a button on the flipper, and suddenly people have problems, with their medical devices, in addition to their phones and all this other stuff via a Bluetooth Low Energy. They didn't have to go through that point of soldering it or understanding the protocol where they could think of how they're going to use this and maybe even think of the ethical implications. Instead, they're like, there's a button.
Right.
I'm going to push it and see what happens.
The ultimate easy button, Ed. The ultimate easy button.
It short circuits the ethical processing there because it's like push it and see what happens rather than I'm building this thing or understanding it for a reason.
And it's completely unlike Disney. When you go to the Disney parks and there's a button that says "Don't push me," the point is that they want you to push it.
Well, I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the previous segment, right? Like if you're going to build a supply chain capability, we were talking about supply chain, and if I wanted an adapter or a dongle or something, right? The only way you can trust it is to build it yourself, right?
Right.
And that takes that engineering aptitude. You get your breadboard out, you do the circuits yourself, and that's what you did with your son, right? So he's definitely going down a double E kind of field engineering path. But to Ed's point, if you don't do it and understand it yourself, you don't understand like all the technology and all the stuff behind it and all the implications of what you're building versus just pushing a button. And that's the reality of the world we're in, if we think about it. Like, when we were kids, we built our own computer systems.
Yeah.
Right? We built them. We built them from scratch. We bought all the pieces. We put them in assemble.
We plugged the 8-bit ISA Sound Blaster into our IBM XT.
Right. And we assembled them ourselves. Now, technology advanced so much that our kids just pick up their iPhone and they start doing stuff, and they don't understand, like, the basic, the understanding of what the stuff does, because
and then they ask you
we made it
questions,
so
like,
easy.
why doesn't this work? And we're like, look, back in the day, I had to build my own computer and like write the code to make it do something. You just picked up an iPhone or an iPad, and now you're frustrated because like something doesn't work. I'm like, seriously?
Uphill in the snow, both ways.
Like, we didn't have Google back in the day. Did you Google that before you even asked me a question?
My first class, computer engineering, build your own damn assembler. How many kids build an assembler these days? I don't even know if anybody builds an assembler anymore.
I mean, many of our first computers, those of us on this panel, right, were you booted it up and it gave you a prompt, and you had to enter some basic code, perhaps,
Yes.
to get it to do anything,
You had to
right?
enter it into the BIOS to get it to boot, right?
Wait. Okay, trivia time. PR number 6. PR number 6.
PR number 6. What is PR number 6?
Apple II.
Apple IIe. Apple
Yep.
IIe was my first computer. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with all of these things, and honestly, that is kind of where I've been for a while. Like, we have a lot of people without the fundamental base knowledge to do a lot of the things that we've been doing for the last, what are we on?
20 years, baby. 20 years
a lot
plus.
Of years. But the problem being that kind of border and boundary to entry, we've excluded a lot of people that are not interested in technology without leveraging things like the flipper, where now someone that may not have been interested in technology is all of a sudden trying to understand what this does, what this simple button, why this works. So those barriers of entry for people to get up to speed inside of, we don't have 2 decades now to learn and get through and teach yourself all this. We have a generation of instant gratification. So how do we keep them entertained? How do we engage them? And how do we get them up to speed much quicker than what we were at?
Tyler,
And some of that is through their things like flippers.
But also, I think it's our responsibility to take these people under our wing and do some education. And I go back to the story where I was at, what's the mall in New Jersey? The big mall. It's not Mall of America. It's the American Dream Mall.
Okay.
Yes, American Dream. That's
I was
right.
at American Dream, and there was these 2 younger kids. I mean, it had to be like 11 years old, roughly, right? And I saw them break out a flipper at a restaurant and start trying to mess with the TVs. And I'm just kind of quietly observing, and then I walk up and I'm like, what are you trying to do with your Flipper Zero? Like, use infrared to control the TV. And they just kind of looked at me like, how does this old guy know what a Flipper Zero is? Right? And then they sat down, and I went up to him as I was leaving, and I said, I'm like, there's other firmware that you can put on there that gives you an expanded database of infrared stuff. I'm like, also, you should only do this like with permission, right? And I tried to instill some wisdom and moral and ethics on them as well. But I think it's our responsibility as the older generation to take folks under our wing that are interested in technology, but teach them and train them the proper way to do things.
And they still probably thought, what's this old guy doing talking to us?
How does this old guy know the firmware for the flipper?
See, what I need to do is get a Flipper Zero, program to all the TVs so I can change the channel to the game I want to watch.
Oh, I totally use it not so much as a hacking tool, but also as a utility. I store my NFC access cards on there, my universal remotes for my own TVs. Like I use it as actually like a tool, not so much for using things the way they weren't intended for, but using things for what they were intended for.
What's the thing? The key bar
is lighter now.
The key bar,
like less tools in my bag.
Right. Yeah. The key, like I use it for I get into my daycare has an RFID system for my little one, so like.
Yes, you clone the card, you put it in the flipper, and now I'm like, I just need to carry my flipper with me, and it has all my stuff on it for building access.
They're coming out with a new Flipper Zero that has this little tab that pops out, so you can use it as a bottle opener too. It's really cool.
That would actually be.
It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife.
The OG flipper mod, where you can take over some newbie's flipper and tell them the ethical side of things and ways to improve their flipper because you took it over and they have to get the pin from you.
It's the Wi-Fi pineapple all over again.
Oh, you just created a flipper ransomware scheme.
We'll talk a little more about the Flipper Zero stuff in the news segment, but I want to thank Ed Scotus for coming on the show this evening. Ed, thank you so much. It's always wonderful having you on the show.
Before he goes. Holy Ed, you have Santa on your Hawaiian T-shirt, on your Hawaiian shirt.
I do. This is the Holiday Hack Santa. We got one of these for everybody on our team this year, so we could wear them during launch. And hopefully, we'll wear them next year at the Holiday Hack Party at DEF CON.
Was that one of those services where you could put your pet on a shirt, but instead of the pet, you just submitted Santa?
Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly that.
Yes.
Sands.org/holiday hack. Is that the URL?
That's right. Sands.org/holiday hack.
Thank you again for coming on Paul Security Weekly.
So good seeing you all. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Love you, buddy.
You guys. Love you too.